Okay, so I'm going to be talking about Florence Scovel Shinn. I have quite a few of her writings, which are it's basically the same thing put together by different people. I was first introduced to her in 2001. What I normally do is I usually ask my closest friends what they're reading, and one of my childhood friends happened to be reading her writings, and she told me to go online and get it. It's really quite powerful, and I did that. I got it for like 98 cents, and the shipping and handling was probably $2, so even more than the book. And once I read it, I bought so many copies and sent to different friends of mine. And the reason why I liked it is because, first of all, Florence Scovel Shinn was born in New Jersey, if I'm not mistaken. And yes, she was born in New Jersey, Camden, New Jersey. And she was born on the 24th of September, 1871. And the fabulous thing about her, a very privileged background, but that is not even why I'm talking about her. She's one of those people who was a woman, well, from the fact that she's a woman, way ahead of her time, when it comes to spirituality. A lot of what lately has become like sort of like a phenomena from we're talking about Eckhart Tolle, and all the various spiritual writers and readers, and one of the more the Tim Robbins. I'm trying to remember this one particular book that everybody seems to talk about. So popular. Just a few seconds. Okay, so I mean, and The Secret, and also people like Deepak Chopra, you know, all these people are saying the same things. And sometimes you need confirmation from someone who is credible to you. And that's who Florence Scovel Shinn was to me. And so she happens to be the one that I feel really touched on things that I strongly believe in. I always feel like as a child, the prayers that I prayed have come to the forefront. And that's another thing she does. She combines spiritual with religious. And when I say religious, it means that if you believe maybe in the Bible or the Quran, you can connect that to the spiritual affirmations and things like that. So for example, your word is your wand is something that she talks about, that what you say, be careful of what you say, because what you say is very powerful and can come to fruition. She will quote something from her Bible, which I feel also translates into other people's religions and things like that. Maybe even Hinduism, they have the same things, it's just interpreted that way. So for me, those are the things that manifested. And then there are things like, I always believe that, first of all, I'm somebody who, I never understood working 9 to 5 from a child. I always used to worry about that. I used to worry about the fact that how am I going to sit in someone's office from 9 to 5 doing the same thing? So I've always been that worker who gets to work early, does whatever I have to do, and then makes work for myself, because I've been like 9 to 5 in an office. So I knew that I was going to end up working for myself. At that time, there was nothing like really entrepreneurism. It was more like business people, and business people run big companies. So you can't even fathom how you're going to do what I mean, how are you going to work for yourself? But now everyone, follows their passion, and it's, you can realize that. Whereas when I was growing up, that really wasn't the thing. It was either business people or not, or you worked in an office, stuff like that. So anyway, back to, I always believe that you don't need money to begin a business. I just felt that not everybody has access to tons of money. Not everyone is privileged enough to have that money. Very few people are able to get loans from the banks. So you have to be able to start a business without that. And she has stories about people who thought about a sum of money that would help them, or were in such crisis situations that there was absolutely no way they could be assisted, whether it meant help financially, support, and it appeared because their mindset focused on drawing the wealth or the support towards them, and it arrived at the right time, sometimes the day before maybe they'll be evicted. And she gives these true life stories to affirm what she's saying. And so for me, like, I have experienced the fact that you can make a big purchase and not have a dime. And I can attest to that. So for me, when I read that in her book, it resonated with me then, which is like almost 14 years ago. And I've seen it manifest in my life because I believe that. I believe that you can be gifted with anything out of the blue for no reason or for a reason as well. You know, you hear these miraculous stories where somebody was about to be evicted and then somebody knocked on the door and it was somebody saying, I'm coming to give you this X amount of money, and it's the exact amount that you need. Some people have had, we're just about to be, let's say, evicted again, and a neighbor came and said, here's the money to pay your rent or clothes for your children, food to put on your table, things like that. And I've always believed that. I've always believed things like that in the spiritual, that there are guides out there watching you, that you can think about things, you can pray about things, and it will manifest. And also, you need to be careful what you ask for. You've heard that a lot. I've heard, a lot of preachers out there talk about be careful what you ask for. Yes, because sometimes you can't even handle it, or it's not what you thought you wanted. And I've seen that manifest. Like some people say they want to get married to a man with short hair and long hair, bank of this, bank of that. You have all these details, but there'll be some things that are missing. So when you get that person, it's like a horror story, but you got exactly what you thought you wanted. That's why sometimes when I ask for stuff, I also ask that the universe gives me what it knows or thinks I should get out of the things I may want. The universe must select for me. So basically my thing is, I'm just fascinated by her in the sense that she was a woman in a time where, it was very male dominated, where we didn't work, women didn't go out to work, they weren't heard, but she had this, she wrote about things like that. And I'll just run through a couple of her chapters where she talks about the game of life, and she says that the game of life, most people consider life a battle, but it's not a battle, it's a game. It's a game, however, which cannot be played successfully without the knowledge of spiritual law, and the Old and New Testament give the rule of the game with wonderful clearance. Jesus Christ taught that it was a great game of giving and receiving. You can use that in your own faith. If you have, if your own faith, you can find something in your faith that relates to that. So this is not, her writings are not necessarily for Christians or Muslims or it's for everybody with no distinction. And she just shows you how she relates the spiritual to the religious and into reality. She gives you true life stories of people she knows, situations that have arisen that have come out of, your intuition, your thought process, your words. What you talk about, if you think bad of a person, it will come to you. Things like that. If you think good of a person, it comes to you. If you have enemies, if you do good or think good of them, that bounces will reflect, will sort of casts away anything that they have against you. So many things. There's so many things I used to do on my own, that if I'm going to enter a situation, I would say a prayer to the world, to the universe, that let there be peace between me and this person, or let the peace come out of this situation. Let this, you work with some very toxic people, and sometimes when you have to interact with them, you say something in your mind to protect you, to make the discussion peaceful, let you come out not as wounded as you would. And I've done that almost all my life, and I've seen it manifest. Sometimes you walk in and you're just going to be slaughtered, and you say this little thing in your head, and you get there and the person is like a lamb. I've been in a situation where I was in a hurry one day, trying to pick something up from the store, pick my dad up at the same time, and out of the blue, there were the cops. They stopped me, and in my mind, I just said my prayers that they would let me get off, and they did. They did, miraculously. It didn't take 2 minutes, because I was more concerned about the time frame I was working with. Little things that, I'm not talking about big, fantastic things. I'm just talking about regular things in your life. Your thought process, the words, what you have in your heart, all affect what goes on from day to day. You can wake up and feel it's going to be a horrible day. It will be a horrible day. Or you can be going through a rough time and think positively, and your day can change. That happens to me. And I find that as you get older, you get bogged down with all kinds of life situations, and you forget that fearlessness you had when you were younger. And I feel that a lot of things manifested very well for me when I was younger, because I was not bombarded with all that goes on, all that information. For example, when I finally decided I was going to work on my own, I just did it. I did not know where the income was going to come from, and in my mind I'll be like, I was very carefree about that. I was like, oh, God will provide. And within a month of my not working, a family friend came and said, a friend is looking for an assessor. Why don't you go and try it out for it? And I got it. But I have to take in context that she told me that after I got it, she said, I took someone else there and he didn't take her. But somehow he must have liked what he saw in you. That was just the universe, God, the guides, your ancestors, whatever, working in your favor. And the mindset I had, trusting that all will be well.